Turks got a great show for you guys. Okay, wonderful show. No joke ahead for you guys. The Hobby Lobby folks are good Christians. I know that because they went to court defending their Christianity. Except they apparently forgot one of the commandments. Although they would like to apparently probably steal it if they could. That fun story is in the second hour. You're gonna love it. I got a bunch of great stories in the second hour for you guys. Can't wait to get to that. First hour is also wonderful, including Ted Cruz. Just when you thought he couldn't get any more heartless, he's like, no, I can top it. Okay, just when you thought Ted Cruz being more vicious than he already is, inconceivable. He said, you might not understand the meaning of that word. That's a Princess Bride illusion for Ted Cruz, who I know enjoys Princess Bride. Okay, so that's later in the program, and that's gonna be nothing but fun. Of course, you get the entire program, especially this month. You crazy dog? We got free membership, free for a whole month. Is this well advised? I don't know, but it's happening nonetheless. tytnetwork.com/join. Enter promo code free TYT, get a whole month of TYT membership, get the whole show, the entirety of the show, anytime you want it, download it, stream it, audio, video, no ads, post games. We got aggressive progressive tonight. We had old school last night. All those wonderful things, all free for 1 month. Try it out right now, tytnetwork.com/join, promo code free TYT. Okay, let's get started. Okay. So there's a lot of hand-wringing about the media, and are they balanced enough? Are they creating more division? Are they fake? Are they not fake? So Walter Isaacson, who was former CNN chairman and CEO, and very respected in the community and in the industry, now at the Aspen Institute, is on Bloomberg television. He's gonna talk about it. I think he is half right, but I also think that he leaves out a huge part which makes him half wrong. So first, let's watch.
About the fracturing of journalism. Talk to us a little bit about how you see Fox's role here in perhaps smoothing some of the divides in the country or exacerbating them.
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely true that the divides in our country have been exacerbated by all forms of media, whether it's in the blogosphere or on cable news, people getting more and more partisan.
So now the half that's true is obvious. So in the beginning there was well, actually, it depends on what you mean by the beginning. In the modern era, there was the Walter Cronkites, et cetera, and the idea was that the news was supposed to be objective. Now, that's not really that true. Edward R. Murrow, one of the legends of news, was clearly opinionated, had a perspective, shared it on air. Walter Cronkite actually was. His most famous moments are when he said Vietnam, we weren't winning and we weren't headed in the right direction. That is an opinion. And when he cried over JFK being shot, very understandable, but a moment of emotion and passion. So I think that even the past has been judged in a way that's not really accurate, let alone the fact that if you go further back to the foundation of this country, the press actually used to be deeply partisan and far more vicious than it is today. So that's a fact, and you can go check that out as well. But in the modern era, there was the thought that there is objectivity, and oftentimes, by the way, delivered by organizations like Associated Press, Reuters, McClatchy Newspapers does a wonderful job with it. I think The Guardian does, Intercept, et cetera. But it got warped at some point to mean balance or neutrality instead of objectivity. So then they just said, well, Republicans say this and Democrats say that. And look, the organization that he ran, CNN, was the most responsible, in my opinion, for that kind of false equivalency. So is there more partisanship now? Yes, then Fox News comes, they're deeply partisan. And then online, it's very clear Breitbart's on the right, and Glenn Beck's on the right. There are many blogs on the left, and obviously we're very clear about our perspective, and we are progressive. So I think that at least there's more honesty online where people clearly label their perspective. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times. I think CNN and the rest of the establishment media also have a perspective. They have an establishment perspective and an establishment bias, which they do not clearly label. That is why they see some on the left and the right as fringe and not acceptable, and they're outside of the the range of acceptable opinion according to the grand poobahs who run CNN, et cetera. So, but is it more partisan? Yes, I will grant him that that is half true. Let's watch a little bit more so I can tell you what I think is actually the #1 problem here.
If people could step back from that, and I don't just put Fox in the category, but I put everybody in the category, including all of us. If we could step back from having knee-jerk partisan reactions, that would be good.
Yes and no. So if you are having a partisan reaction and you say, well, the Democrats are right no matter what, then that's useless. And nobody online is interested in that, by the way. Or if you say the Republican Party is always right, of course, that's useless. And people online, I think, are far more sophisticated than TV viewers. And they don't fall into the normal team play. My family's always been a Democratic family. My family's always been a Republican. I'm on team Republican or Democrat. So now, are there also people online that are not more sophisticated? Of course, I know that too. But generally speaking, I don't know that there is a show with a deeper connection to the online audience than we have. Tens of thousands of comments every day. And I can tell you right now that the viewers online do not like partisanship. On the other hand, they want you to be honest and clear with your perspective. Again, I think we deliver on that. And to be fair to Breitbart, it's clear what their perspective is, and many of the right-wing blogs and left-wing blogs. But what I think that Walter Isaacson is getting wrong there is that he thinks, well, that means we call it down the middle. No. And I hope I'm not putting words into his mouth, but I have seen this time and time again, and in the context of that interview, it certainly appeared that he was saying that. If you then say, since I don't want to be partisan, I'm gonna say what the Republicans are doing and the Democrats are doing are equal. No, but that's not true. That's not objectively true. So I can give you many examples. I'll give you one. The number of filibusters that the Republicans did doubled or nearly tripled the previous record of filibusters. So, and by the way, that's undercounting. If you look at just strictly the numbers of filibusters, I think it's around double. But if you see that the Democrats actually did not force them into filibusters on many other issues that they could have, it would have gone way past that number. So who was more obstructionist? Well, there is a literal answer to that question, and it was the Republican Party. Now, if you say today the Democrats are obstructing Republicans' plans, that's fair. But and I'm not sure you should call it even there either. The Democrats are looking to block Trump's agenda, hence they are more obstructionist. But don't call it even if it isn't even. And so in reality now, and here's what you'll never hear in the establishment press, partly because of the opinions of Isaacson and others that would consider it unduly partisan. One party is playing by Queensberry rules. I mean, when Ossoff lost, he had banners in the background saying humility. What kind of a political slogan is humility? On one side, they got kids' gloves on. On the other side, they are proud. I mean, you go look at all the work. Roger Stone's not hiding it. He's so proud of all of his lies and deceptions and tricks, and he brags about it to anyone who'll see it. And now roundly acknowledges the person who got Donald Trump to run, and a lot of his campaign was based on Roger Stone tactics. And it is a proven fact how many times Donald Trump lies. He lies within the same sentence. If you call that even, you have done a great disservice to journalism. So if you say, well, look, we don't want to seem too partisan, so I will say I can't tell the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Well, that's not journalism, and you've hurt the idea of the media and the press. So which plan covers more people? Obamacare has a lot of issues with it. We talked about the issues when they were passing it. I don't think it controls prices nearly well enough. But does it cover more people? Absolutely. Will senior citizens pay more under this new healthcare proposal? Absolutely. Sometimes three times more than they used to pay. Sometimes 4 times more than they used to pay. By the way, it's also fair to say some young and healthy people will pay less under the Republican plan. And then you talk about a trade-off. The Republicans give a giant, about $700 billion tax cut to the rich. That's a fact. That's a fact. Don't be afraid to say it. And 23 million people will lose their insurance, and senior citizens will pay a lot more. On the other hand, rich people get more tax cuts, and younger and more healthier people will pay a little bit less for their insurance. But on places like CNN, they are so afraid to say it because then Donald Trump and everybody will say, oh, you're on the liberal media, you're side, you're being partisan, fake news, all that stuff. No, lay out the facts no matter where they fall. And I think they're so scared to be called partisan that that is not what they're doing today. That's the real problem with the establishment media today. Okay, so now let's go to other issues with the media and how that plays out. So last October, AT&T offered to buy Time Warner for only $85 billion. So that's obviously a giant merger. It has to get, in a sense, approved by the federal government. And I talk about this all the time, that there are these parent corporations that run a lot of these media organizations, and CNN is under Time Warner, which if the merger is approved would be under AT&T. Well, they care a lot more about some of the approvals that are gonna happen than they care about necessarily the ratings of one of your channels in that giant media organization. And some of those organizations, their parent corporations aren't even media. So in the case of Time Warner, they largely are a media company. In the old days when GE used to own NBC, they're largely defense contractors. They had other lines of business as well, but their biggest was defense contractor. So they were making money in other ways. They needed media both for a profit center, but also for marketing purposes. So that's reality, and when you mention that, sometimes people go, oh no, corporate interest and billions of dollars on the line, that would never affect anyone's decision. How dare you? Well, the one good thing about the Trump era is that they're a little bit more brazen in their corruption, so it leads to a tiny bit more honesty, whether it's accidental or not. So in this case, the Trump administration is saying, yeah, we might take politics into account in how we evaluate this merger. Now, they're not technically supposed to, but I got news for you guys. And by the way, if you're in the mainstream media, I hope you're sitting, because you're gonna be shocked to chagrin when I tell you that under old administrations, yes, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, Republicans and Democrats alike, they considered your politics when they were considering mergers, and they considered donations. I know that they will say until they're blue in the face, oh, how dare you? Are you challenging the nobility of these honorable gentlemen? My answer to that is yes, I am. I believe that, of course it was relevant. And of course, look, when I was at MSNBC and I was a host there, I was told over and over again, and that is why I left, that I had to know who the home team was. The home team apparently was the Democratic Party. Why? Comcast, the largest media organization in the world, is run by a bunch of liberals? No, that is not the reason why. Because at that time, the Obama administration was the ones that got to decide, are mergers for Comcast going to get approved? Are we gonna have net neutrality? Are we not gonna have net neutrality? Those are multi-billion-dollar decisions. Oh, how is your ratings at 6 o'clock on MSNBC? Ba-ding, who cares? Again, in the Trump era, since they can't contain themselves, they're just more blatant about it. So that brings us to a report from the New York Times. They explain that White House advisors have discussed a potential point of leverage over their adversary. A senior administration official said, a pending merger between CNN's parent company Time Warner and AT&T. Mr. Trump's Justice Department will decide whether to approve the merger, and while analysts say there is little to stop the deal from moving forward, the president's animus towards CNN remains a wild card. Drams. Okay, so there you have some significant drama. Now, for whoever at the White House is leaking that is obviously means to do one thing, which is to intimidate CNN. Two, that might be a very real threat. Now, previous administrations were sophisticated enough not to leak that to the press because it then triggers several different things. Number one, it's technically illegal to do that. The Department of Justice doesn't approve the merger. It can try to block the merger and ask for an injunction. But if it does, they go to court, and the court can then see, did you block it because you thought it limited competition for legitimate reasons, or did you block it for illegitimate reasons like political reasons? Well, if you told the New York Times you did it for political reasons, that might not help your cause. Plus, you don't want to raise your hand and say, I'm doing something kind of illegal here, right? Or we're threatening to do something illegal. I guarantee you the Obama administration would not have been that unsophisticated, no matter what they actually did in reality. So now CNN gets to say we would never take this into consideration, but Mediaite reports it had recently been reported that AT&T might be looking to neutralize CNN President Jeff Zucker as part of the merger, with options ranging from firing him to kicking him upstairs to a corporate executive job with no real input at CNN. And that's how this game is played. Now, today, Jeff Zucker is out there going, no way, they wouldn't do this. If you say so, Jeff. Okay, but as you know, sometimes that is exactly how it goes down. And that would be sophisticated of Time Warner not to fire Jeff Zucker, but to give him a promotion where he gets more money. At MSNBC, I was offered more money, but I was offered to move from prime time to the weekends where less people see you. So Jeff, you might get more money and a promotion, but you're gonna go to an office where nobody's ever gonna hear from you again. Now that is one of the possibilities. Now that it's more out in the open, it's harder to execute. So, and it forces CNN to say, no way. And it puts Zucker, I think, in some ways in a better position. Because if you do it now, it'll seem fairly obvious. Look, we're having this conversation right now, so everybody knows about it. So who knows who leaked it? But I'll tell you this much. Does that happen in all of these administrations where they say, hey, if you play ball, usually far more subtly than the Trump administration has said it in this instance, then we'll maybe approve your mergers, and if you don't, and you rock the boat, then maybe your merger doesn't get approved. In this case, they're brazen, it's potentially illegal, but are they going to take that into account when they make their decision? Of course they are, of course they are. And hence, why mainstream media cares about access. Does it really matter to have a boring Republican or Democratic congressman or senator on television? No, that doesn't help your ratings at all. I know, I was there. The ratings don't go up, they go down when you have a boring politician on. You don't need access for better ratings. You need access for things like government merger approval. So before, I would say those things and people in the mainstream would shake their heads and go, oh, corporations and politicians caring about billions of dollars. Cenk, that's so uncouth of you to say. Now, the Trump administration has made it public. They're saying, of course we care about that money, and that is a tool that we use to control the press. Now you know at least. Okay, now let's go to Missouri. Well, we had good news in St. Louis, Missouri. They raised the minimum wage recently, went up to $10. Look, I think it should be at 15. It's a good first step though, and in 2018 it was gonna go to $11. Wait a minute, why did I just say it was going to go to 11? Because there's no good news that can last in this country. What do you think, we live in a democracy? So we go to the Huffington Post now, Dave Jamieson writing and explaining. After St. Louis leaders raised the wage floor for workers within city limits, the state GOP recently passed what's known as a statewide preemption law, forbidding localities from taking such matters into their own hands. On Friday, Missouri Governor Eric Greitens said he would let the law go into effect, thereby barring cities and counties from setting a minimum wage higher than the state level. See what they did there? Oh, St. Louis, you want to pay your workers more? Nah, I don't think so. We're preempting your act of decency with an act of gross cruelty. Now, the governor in this case is a Republican and didn't have the guts to actually just sign the law. He let it go into effect without signing it. Why did he do that? Because he knows that people are going to be furious. Now, I'll give you the full context of how devastating this is to the working poor and middle class. Remember, they're working. You don't get the minimum wage if you're a bum and you're not working. So all the propaganda they do against poor people and middle class people, it's nonsense. They work really, really hard. So here's what happened. For low wage earners in St. Louis itself, the new law will have a startling consequence. It will actually push the minimum wage back down from the city approved $10 per hour to the state approved $7.70. The downgrade is slated to take effect on August 28th. Let's talk about how devastating that is. As a percentage of their income, for someone earning the bare minimum, that's a potential cut of 23%. They're giving tax cuts like it's no one's business to the highest income earners in the country. The average person in the top 1%, not from the tax cuts that's coming next, but just from the tax cuts within healthcare reform, those are the smaller tax cuts, are gonna get about, I think, $35,000 per household in the top 1%. They're gonna get an extra $35,000 per household. The numbers get astronomical when you get to the higher brackets. I think that the 400 richest people are gonna get like an extra $7 million a year from the tax cuts just inside healthcare reform. Then the larger tax cuts and tax reform comes. But when it comes to the poor and middle class that are working, they're going to cut your wages in St. Louis by a quarter. It's not like you were getting rich off of $10 an hour. You could barely survive on $10 an hour. And then they're gonna cut it by a quarter. And then meanwhile, when they do the tax cuts for the rich, you know what they tell you? Oh, that's not for the rich, that's for you guys, so that it could trickle down on you. How about instead of trickling down on me, you let me keep a $10 minimum wage, which doesn't even pay the bills. It barely allows you to survive. No, don't worry, I'm gonna give it all to the rich, and eventually, maybe it'll trickle down to you, but meanwhile, I'm gonna take your money. And by the way, where does that go? Well, why do you think they're passing the law? Well, because their donors told them to pass the law. What donors? The employers who say, look, I'd rather have my executives make more money. It's not like these businesses aren't profitable. They're almost all incredibly profitable. But no, they have to maximize profit. And in order to maximize profit, who are they gonna take it from? They're gonna take it from you. So look, if we had a decent democracy in this country, we'd have a $15 minimum wage. We might have one that's even higher. And when businesses do well, that's great. We all win. The businesses win, small businesses, big businesses, the workers, etc. But that's not the system we have. We have a system that allows for legalized bribery where you can just go to politicians, give them a campaign donations, and they do whatever the hell you want them to. And what has that led to? Gross income inequality. It's not an accident. This is how it happens. They cut your wages and they give tax cuts to the rich. And then they go, oh golly gee, I think that's the market. That's not the market. That's you buying off politicians and destroying people who are working for a living. And you think it's just in St. Louis? No, no, no. At least 17 states have preemption laws that stand in the way of local minimum wage legislation, according to a recent study by the National League of Cities. They did it in Birmingham too. In Birmingham, the NAACP is now filing a civil rights lawsuit because Birmingham is 73% African American. They raised the minimum wage to $10.10. Again, not a huge number and has not kept up with inflation at all. Has not kept up with the productivity of the American worker at all. You're still not getting anywhere near what you should at $10.10. But Alabama didn't like that Birmingham was getting a higher wage. So the state of Alabama comes in and goes, nah, I'm gonna take that higher minimum wage away, just like they did in Missouri. Look, what can you do about it? You gotta get money out of politics, so wolf-pac.com. If you don't do that, they're gonna do this to you forever. You gotta stand up and fight so that when you actually do work your ass off, you can actually get a decent wage for it and feed your family. Okay, wolf-pac.com, get money out of politics, volunteer, help however you can help. The second way is, if you don't have real Democrats, real progressives representing you, the Democrats are gonna get steamrolled every time. So in St. Louis, there's a person running for Congress who says the minimum wage should be way higher. She's a Justice Democrat, her name is Cori Bush. And if you want strong fighters who actually fight for you, she doesn't take any PAC money. If you're a Justice Democrat, you're not allowed to take PAC money, you're not allowed to take corporate money. You only small donors. That way you know that she's representing you and not the donors. So why is she for a higher minimum wage? Because nobody bought her off so that she would be able for a lower minimum wage and pretend that she's actually doing it for you. She doesn't have to pretend to do anything. So go read more about her, go to votecoribush.com. And if you want to help her with the small donations, votecoribush.com/donate. But look, if you're in Birmingham, do likewise. If you're in any of those 17 areas, do likewise. Don't let them sit there and take money from your family and just let them get away with it. Fight back the way you're supposed to in this system. Fight back through democracy, through politics, regain that power. That is why they are so scared of organizations like Justice Democrats and Our Revolution and all these people that are actually fighting back to get real change. And they're not gonna give it to you if you ask pretty please. You have to take it back. The way you do that is by supporting candidates and groups like this, so we get money out of politics so that they represent voters and not donors. Okay, now let me go to, speaking of which, let me go to Nancy Pelosi. Okay. So Republicans have been running ad after ad in every one of the special elections saying if, for example, John Ossoff wins, Nancy Pelosi wins. Now, I think there has been a great misinterpretation of why they're doing that and why it is successful and how the Democrats should respond. Some Democrats, very justifiably, have said maybe Nancy Pelosi is hurting our cause and not helping. Now, this reminds me of when we said the same about Hillary Clinton, and everybody said, no, Hillary Clinton doesn't have any problems, but the people love Hillary Clinton. How'd that turn out? So, the people that are saying the opposite, that are saying that Nancy Pelosi is wonderful and helping, are of course people like Nancy Pelosi and all of her allies that she got money to. Anyway, so right after the Trump election, when she was asked about whether people want a new direction in the Democratic Party, since they just lost to Donald F. and Trump, and they lost the House and the Senate, let alone 69 out of the 99 state legislatures. I mean, you almost can't get a worse record of failure. She said, quote, I don't think people want a new direction. Really? Well, they have a funny way of showing it. So the evidence would seem to indicate they really want a new direction. Okay, now after the Ossoff loss, of course, Democrats declared moral victory, but actual failure yet again. They asked Pelosi again, is it time to step down? Here's her responses. Quote, I think I'm worth the trouble. Well, okay, I know, we're supposed to be with you. I'm with her. I am worth the trouble. I am worth the trouble. Why? Why are we going through the trouble just for you? Again, I do have an answer I'll share with you in a second. And then she says these incredibly haughty things like this. Everybody wants leaders. Not a lot of people want to be led. People should know when they're defeated. Yeah, I understand. Oh, please, Nancy Pelosi, lead me. I don't know what to do. No, but you see, Representative Pelosi, we're asking you to not lead us. I think you're misunderstanding the message. Okay, but why should you stay, Representative Pelosi? She says, quote, I'm a master legislator. I don't know if she knows how funny that sounds. By the way, master legislator, what have you brought to us in progressive victories? I'll wait. Progressive victories, master legislator, you lost the fight for keeping us out of Iraq spectacularly. You lost the fight to give tax cuts to the rich under George W. Bush. You lost almost every fight under George W. Bush. Where's the master legislator? Maybe I'm missing it. And then under Obama, well, we did get one thing passed, Obamacare, which they're now destroying. I'm a master legislator. Well, if you see, for example, she'll say, and we're going to talk more about it in a second, oh, I've always been for single payer. I'm not for it now, but I've always been for it. Really? When have you ever fought for it? When have you ever gotten it passed, master legislator? No, you've never gotten it passed. And in fact, during the Obamacare fight, you were among the people who were like, oh, public option. No, that's a bit too much, don't you think? Oh, we have a super majority. But no, let's not do a public option. Hey, look, I didn't call you a master legislator, you did. So that puts the burden on you to prove that somehow you got these legislative victories that were amazing, that were better than expected. Where are those, Representative Pelosi? Because I don't think the American people are seeing them. When asked to further support this, she said, quote, people just flock to support me. Oh my God. I don't think that's your issue. I've got to be honest with you. But again, the same thing as Hillary Clinton, hubris. Hubris on top of hubris. Oh, I am the master legislator. I do declare you have to be with me. Flock to support me, everybody. Jesus Christ. And why does she believe these insane things that nobody else in the country believes? Every Republican runs ads against Nancy Pelosi. Do you think that's because they think Nancy Pelosi is really popular? No, they run those ads because they think Nancy Pelosi is really unpopular. But in her circle, she's got a bunch of sycophants around her who are like, oh yes, Nancy, absolutely, Nancy. You are the most master legislator we've ever seen, Nancy. So here's Emmanuel Cleaver, who says, look, Cleaver has upsides too, and all these people are complicated, got upsides, downsides. But in this case, he has this incredibly annoying quote of, nobody pushed Michael Jordan into retirement. Michael Jordan won things. He won 6 championships. Where are our championships? I mean, first of all, you don't have the House. You were Speaker of the House, you're not the Speaker of the House. Therefore, you did not win, you lost, okay? But that's not the point. The point is legislative victories, policy victories. I'm still waiting for them. If this is the best they got, then you gotta step aside right now. If you think this is winning, and you think this is a wonderful example of legislating these last 20 years, you gotta go right now. You gotta go this minute. Because if this is the best we can do, that is an incredibly low bar. Then I can't have that person content with failure, filled with hubris, having all these sycophants around her going, oh, you're Michael Jordan, Nancy Pelosi, don't worry about it. Now, how about policy? Does she plan to win in the future? The answer is no. Let's take single payer as an example. New York Times reports she is resisting calls for House Democrats to run on single payer healthcare coverage and is an unapologetic pragmatist when it comes to those in her ranks who deviate from orthodoxy. You know what that means? That means single payer, we're definitely not doing it. The leader of the Democrats in the House says she promises that she will not do it. How are you gonna win if you promise ahead of time that you're going to quit? And then she says that she is a pragmatist. Well, if you're a pragmatist and it led to victories, and you say, look, I promise you policy victories later, but I'm at least gonna give you legislative victories, electoral victories. Well, where are those? Those don't exist either. I don't know if you know this, Nancy Pelosi. You're not Speaker of the House anymore because you lost. There is no pragmatism in failure. You can claim pragmatism if you had succeeded, but you have not. But to them, they're like, what do you mean? The money's still flowing in. We're wildly successful. No, you're not. Success is actually getting wins like in single payer. And here, in this case, you're not only refuse to fight, did you notice the end of the sentence? She is going against those ranks who deviate from orthodoxy. So if you deviate from the establishment, that's when Nancy Pelosi's a tiger. That's when the establishment all of a sudden roars its head and goes, how dare you? You will not deviate from orthodoxy. But I'm a master legislator who's gonna give us progressive victories. You just promised us that you won't even fight for progressive victories. Okay, when asked why on God's green earth won't you fight on this? Quote from Nancy Pelosi, the comfort level with the broader base of the American people is not there yet. Well, that is factually incorrect, as I'm gonna show you there. But under that logic, Nancy Pelosi, the comfort level of the American people is not with you apparently. So according to your own logic, you should step aside immediately. Okay, but on to single payer. She says the comfort level is not there. A 2016 Gallup poll found that 58% of Americans favored replacing Obamacare with a federally funded healthcare system. That is not going further right, that is going further left. The Washington Post reported April 2017, quote, a recent survey from the economist YouGov found that a majority of Americans support expanding Medicare to provide health insurance to every American. That is Medicare for all. But will you fight on that? No, majority of people are not there. You're wrong. You're factually incorrect. 58% say, yes, I want a government-run program. And a majority say, yes, I want Medicare for all. Can I be any more specific? But the donors don't want Medicare for all. The donors don't want you to have single payer. So Nancy Pelosi tells you it's not pragmatic. It's not that when you run those ads and you put Nancy Pelosi's picture on it, I'm a guy who does not want to run from any fights. So if I thought that they were attacking her because she's too liberal and that's what was working, I would double down. I'd send in someone even more liberal than her. And I would fight for our ideas. But that's not why it works. It works because they don't associate her with liberal, they associate her with out of touch, elite establishment, and they are right. So, because if they associated her with liberal, they'd say, oh, then Medicare for all, that's the thing I like. That's very progressive. Nancy Pelosi's progressive. I like Nancy Pelosi. That's not the direction they're going in. So what is she good at? And another ally, Steve Cohen, and a guy I like, again, these guys are complicated, from Tennessee, says, this is in favor of Nancy Pelosi, quote, she's good at the wealthier folk. Indeed, indeed. Now we go to the New York Times again. Miss Pelosi boasting that she was the biggest fundraiser in the country, still in office, dismissed suggestions that her time had passed. And she could not help but note that her critics did not mind benefiting from her financial prowess. That's right, we have a sick, corrupt system where the person who receives the most amount of legalized bribes is considered the leader. And every once in a while, somebody will take a pot shot at Nancy Pelosi, but they still live under the same system and they still like that she funnels some of those legalized bribes to them. So they're like, oh, she's Michael Jordan, she's wonderful, she shouldn't leave, she's good with the wealthier folks. And by the way, the guys I quoted are actually among the better guys. There are much worse guys out there. And so and they're like, oh, well, we might go from Nancy Pelosi to Crowley or to Steny Hoyer. Steny Hoyer isn't any better than Nancy Pelosi. He's just a weak sauce Nancy Pelosi. He's just someone who isn't quite as accomplished in getting quite as many bribes as Nancy Pelosi is. Again, the system allows for it, it's legal. I'm not saying that they're doing anything illegal. But when you take all this money and you brag about it, I don't know if you know this, it might leave the impression that you're among the elites and among the corrupt who have filled the swamp with their donors. So it doesn't mean that Trump is right. Trump has made the swamp much worse. But you're not helping by going down the same road and just losing those guys and go, well, they have more money, what could I do? You could change the system, that's what you could do. Oh, but that would be hard. Yeah, I guess we would need a master legislator for that. All right, and they explain the actual numbers. Since entering the House Democratic leadership in 2002, Ms. Pelosi has raised nearly $568 million for her party. Just in 2016 election cycle, she raised over $141 million. Yes, in the old days when nobody noticed the corruption or they had barely begun to notice the corruption, that would have been a big positive in your column. I'm not unaware of that, I understand that. And these days, we can see you. You can't hide behind TV anymore. There's something called the internet where we can see all these numbers. Okay. Beto O'Rourke, who's one of the good guys, he's a Democrat of Texas, does not take PAC money, does not take corporate money, and he's going to run against Ted Cruz very likely in the Senate in Texas. He says you can't tell people you're against big money, that you're fighting for the average American, and then spend so much of your time with PACs and corporate interests and the very wealthy. Common sense, that's why Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in the country right now, but the Democratic establishment refuses to see it. And Beto O'Rourke makes a good point. He says if money were the critical factor, we'd be in the majority right now. If money were the critical factor in presidential races, Hillary Clinton would have won. Yes, Nancy Pelosi, you are right. You have raised more money than anyone else. What you don't realize though is that used to be an advantage, that is now a significant disadvantage. What it signals and cues the American people is that you're celebrating the corruption. You are not necessarily personally corrupt, but the system has been corrupted. So when you revel in that systemic corruption, people don't see, oh, well, that's a person that's fighting for us. They see a person fighting for their donors, and they're not wrong about that. Now, this is the last thing and very important. They asked Trump voters, and you're gonna say, who cares about Trump voters? No, 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 no. These are people who voted for Barack Obama and then switched over and voted for Trump. So that's very important. Why did they switch over from Obama to Trump? Now, don't tell me it's race. That's tough to do in that particular category. Now, that might have been some segment of that population, but overall, these are guys who are discontented with the way things are going. They thought Obama was going to bring them change, so they're not wedded to Republicans, they're not wedded to white people or evangelicals or anything like that. They just want change, but they felt like they didn't get it, so they went to Trump instead. So when they were asked, what does the Democratic Party stand for? The top three answers were the 1%, the status quo, and they're for the party, themselves and the party. Unfortunately, I think they're correct. So if you can't see the problem that the Democratic Party has, and you can't see the systemic corruption, and you think you're doing a great job amongst all of these electoral losses and an absolute disaster on the policy front, then I'm afraid that you don't understand what's happening in this country at all, and you are definitely not the right person to lead the Democrats out of the wilderness, out of the losses, and actually beat Donald Trump and the Republican Party. You have to understand the voters and how much they hate this corruption in order to be able to beat the Republicans. And if you can't do that, and all you want to do is live in your bubble of hubris, then we got to ask you to step aside. Young Turks.
Hey Cenk, what's up?
Aaron, I want to do a YouTube live clip, but not live. Go.
I'm gonna tell you a story, and then I want you to tell me what you think about the way I reacted to the situation and if you thought it was acceptable.
Guilty. Oh wait, I gotta wait for the story.
I know Anna Kasparian has some stuff to say,
Verbose.
and the world needs to hear it.
But then he became woke bae. I hate it.
I love it, I love it.
Jesus and I used to do this trick where we would elongate the videos so that we would look skinnier.
That is the most positive drug dealing story I've ever heard of.
Bears don't give a fuck.
I trust you guys, audience. Don't let me down.
You don't believe in ghosts? Talking about pussy. Oh, don't.
The food in Turkey is phenomenal.
Hey, we got spam in TYT. Where's our spam?
Oh, death.
Did you want to poop outside? No, I poop here. It's fine because I bury it.
And you know what happens in that water? Turns the frogs gay.
And they can't stand the establishment. And then I slipped and fell on my ass.
Guess I gotta get comfortable here.
That is tomorrow's joke. Cenk, when your time is up, what wouldn't you do for just one more day?
I'm gonna try to have sex with you. If you don't want it right now, just roll up a newspaper and hit me.
Hottest club I've ever been to is my bedroom. People often say that you are the Jasmine of TYT.
Yep.
Please, I am not with you, baby. You gotta let me go.
Oh God, this hurts so bad.
You're alive, you're alive. The last day is not any more valuable than today is.
If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
You said I had small hands? They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
Welcome back to TYT Sports. Jason and Francis here. This is where everybody has to listen. Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody.
I am your host, Francis Maxwell.
Jason here. Welcome to TYT Sports. Turks and Jerks. TYT Sports.
Steph Curry signed with Under Armour.
Tom Brady's mad, by the way.
Do you hear me?
Back on TYT Sports. Actually, leave a link in the description box below instead of lying about leaving a link in the description box below.
Editor, throw up another picture of the UK bacon. And another. And in fact, throw in another one.
Let me see your belly.
Beast mode.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and John with you. I do want to go through some tweets pretty quickly because they're great. Gabby Marita writes in, the single biggest fundamental flaw in the modern mainstream media is forcing a perspective of false equivalency to every issue. Here, Gabby. Aaron Shue says, if money... Top five, okay. If Aaron Shue says, if money would just trickle down anyway, as GOP says, why not just set the minimum wage at $15? I mean, if it'll happen anyway. Aaron, pretty good point.
Bazinga.
I like Aaron's way of debating. Okay, Dana Fairbanks, MD, writes in, Nancy Pelosi is a master fundraiser. That is right. The Mad Lib writes in, Pelosi sounds like Trump. I'm the best legislator. I'm worth it. I'm a master. People flock to me. Dems are the new conservative. Mad Lib, excellent point. Daniel Pareja writes in, Nancy Pelosi is like Michael Jordan, playing baseball.
I get that.
And finally, Tom Zawacki writes in, again, if you're a top fundraiser, you're a leader. If you're a top policymaker, you're rocking the boat. Ooh, I like it, I like it. Great tweets, guys. Yeah. Hashtag TYT Live to talk to us when the show's live, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. Okay.
It's almost as if some of our audience knows what's going on.
Yes, it's almost as if they're the smartest audience in the world, which they actually are if you look at your level of education.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, let's turn back to the news. Some people today actually in the news when it comes to the Senate healthcare bill are feeling pretty excited that Mitch McConnell is basically saying without saying that the odds aren't looking good for him. Some people getting very excited. I would say getting ahead of themselves because this thing is not dead. We saw the same thing happen with the House version of Trump Care, so I don't think anyone should get complacent just yet. They are still trying to strike some sort of deal, and they could come back from this resource with one of a variety of different deals. One that we're going to discuss on the show today has been proposed by Senator Ted Cruz. Now, he's one of the senators who hasn't yet signed on to the bill because he doesn't think that it's conservative enough. He doesn't think it does enough to destroy the protections and subsidies set up under the ACA. And so he's got a plan. And there's multiple aspects to it, but we're going to break down the core component, which is this. Under his plan, as long as a health plan offered at least one Obamacare compliant plan in a state, the plan would also be allowed to offer non-Obamacare compliant plans in that state. So what does that mean? Well, that means you could have plans that don't have to allow people with pre-existing conditions on, or plans that don't have to cover certain essential services, plans that theoretically would allow people with pre-existing conditions but would charge them far more for their health insurance, and that could come in a variety of different forms. But as long as you had that one plan that did things the way they're being done now, you could have all sorts of others. Now, on its surface, I think some people are gonna see that and think, well, that seems kind of reasonable. That way, you can still get health insurance if you have a pre-existing condition. You can go on that one plan. Unfortunately, when you analyze it, it doesn't work out as rosily as Ted Cruz would have you believe. First of all, as the Obamacare markets have the people who need that plan so that they can get insurance go to it, those people necessarily will be more sick than the people who don't choose it, creating effectively high-risk pools in those Obamacare markets. So everything we have now would become a de facto high-risk pool. Inside of that, premiums would increase, and because those are the plans that would then be subsidized by the taxpayers, more and more money would have to go into those subsidies to keep things at parity right now. And it's likely that Republicans would not be willing to increase the subsidies along the way. But then think about this, what about for the people who still want those plans that actually provide coverage for a variety of essential services? They don't necessarily have a pre-existing condition, anything like that, but they want that plan. Well, those people theoretically are not gonna receive subsidies from the government to stay on those plans, although the premiums will continue to rise. And so if you want health insurance is actually worth something, under Ted Cruz's plan, you would end up spending far, far more.
So he calls this consumer freedom. Okay, so if you have a pre-existing condition, you're no longer guaranteed coverage, so you have the freedom to pay a ton more money. Yeah. If you splinter the different kinds of insurance you can get, so this is the Republican vision of the world, which is everybody in it for themselves. So if you're young and healthy, well, I don't need a bunch of insurance, and so you're gonna charge me less. I win. I was already winning, I win even more now, right? If you're older or you're sick or you have a pre-existing condition, well, you're gonna get charged much more money because the insurance is gonna say, Why would I want to cover you? You're sick, right? So if you want insurance, it's going to cost you more than you could afford.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Freedom. Oh, it's good. It feels good to be free.
Yeah. So one of the Republican staffers, not a Democrat, a Republican staffer, said CBO, that's the budget office that's independent, nonpartisan, will come back and say the market will be destroyed by this plan and 45 million people will be left without insurance.
Yeah.
Well, look at that, you're free. You're so free, you don't even have insurance.
And what you have there with the 45 million is that they have this myth that right now Obamacare is in what they call a death spiral. Now the CBO report that came out evaluating the Senate healthcare plan said that it is not currently in a death spiral. That's simply not true. But this Ted Cruz plan, that is what it would set up. When you segment the market that way and necessarily drive up costs and drive people to plans that don't actually cover anything, which of course leads to more bankruptcies and premature deaths and all of that, you will kill the system. And of course, Ted Cruz wants the entire thing killed. So that's not like an unfortunate consequence that he didn't foresee. That is the end goal for Ted Cruz. And unfortunately, it looks like some Republicans might be behind this. Now, Americans aren't. Americans are strongly supportive of requiring plans to cover everybody no matter their health. That's at 69% approval in a poll from November 2016. This directly goes against that. And at least one GOP aide who's involved in these issues says, I would say that if we voted on the Cruz proposal, it would be in the neighborhood of 37 to 15 against, 37 no votes and 15 yeses, and that's probably generous. But again, do not allow yourself to be disarmed. Those potential no's are worthless if they eventually turn into yeses, and that's why you can't let your guard down.
So, by the way, there's another poll that came out just last month. 77 say it's not important to cover people with pre-existing conditions. It's very important. 77% saying very important. They want you to cover people who have pre-existing conditions. Ted Cruz says no. So who are the people that don't want it covered? Well, it is Republican conservative groups like FreedomWorks and Club for Growth. What do they want? They want lower taxes on the rich. So Ted Cruz pretends to be this principled warrior. In reality, here, go to graphic 43. Let me show you who Ted Cruz actually is, okay? This is Ted Cruz. So the reason, after saying that he wouldn't support Trump and saying that you should vote your conscience, even in the middle of the convention, he went up phone banking like, okay, I'll leave the words out, but you can see what he looks like there at the end, is because his donors told him, hey, Ted, who the hell do you think you work for? Go and phone bank for Trump, you loser, you pathetic failure. And he did, because he's not a principled person. All he does is carry water for the richest people in the country. So FreedomWorks and Club for Growth says your bill, Republicans, is not draconian enough. I need it to be even worse. Yeah. I don't care that 3/4 of Americans want you to cover people with pre-existing conditions. That doesn't give me enough tax cuts, so you will not cover it. Yeah. So right now, what they're doing is negotiating for an even more draconian bill, and I'm with John, don't bet against it. They will, at the end, if I know Republicans, they will all serve their donors. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back with more amazing stories.
I'm super excited because we have different levels of members. They pay $10 a month, but there are some members that pay a little more. Our executive producers, for instance. My favorite thing about executive producers is that we have quarterly calls with them. I love that I'm getting a little transparency and I'm knowing what you guys like and dislike. Ideas on how to improve the show, topics that maybe we haven't heard of yet and you really want us to cover. We have so much respect for you because of the fact that you keep us independent and allow us to be uncensored, unfiltered, without worrying about corporate sponsors breathing down our necks and telling us what we can and can't say. So if you want to be a member, obviously no pressure. You can go ahead and join by going to tytnetwork.com/join. I'm gonna ask some uncomfortable questions. The first topic that I said that we would discuss a little more is masturbation.
And then I was swimming in a hazelnut river.
Are you sure you're not doing mushrooms? Oh my God, I can achieve an orgasm by myself.
Fuck that, I am gonna talk about it, because there should be no shame around it. I think a lot about death because I love life.
That openness led to amazing sex.
And I keep saying to everybody, oh, I gotta go call my wife.
I figured that was a good excuse, and people can't say, "Hey, don't call your wife."
I'm gonna release bliss.
It's so weird because at that moment I felt bliss and it smelled like lavender.
At the end, you get to go check. Nice job. If you're a member of the Young Turks, you too will rock the world.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited right now.
Did anybody call for an editor?
Need this in an hour.
But you're an editor too.
Fuck you.
Can we eat in here?
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and John with you guys today. Pete the Rock writes in, some people with pre-existing conditions can't work at all, so why charge more for people with these conditions? It's not just disastrous, it's immoral. To which I say, of course. Last time Ted Cruz cared about morality, hashtag never. Jay writes in, it's almost like they didn't think about this healthcare plan beyond tax cuts. Almost. Okay, and the members of the day are William Martin and Stephanie Foster. Thank you for being Young Turks members. You guys support the show and support independent media so we can do the kind of honest reporting that you see before you, we hope. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, we hope you are gonna see a few stories right now. The right wing wants you to believe that it's leftists and Bernie supporters that are responsible for the divisive and extreme and even violent rhetoric that's driving us apart. They tried to make that clear after the Scalise shooting. And this week it looked like they had a perfect example of it. On the morning of June 16th, Morley Elementary School principal Ryan Cleary contacted police in West Hartford, Connecticut after elementary students found, quote, swear words on their playground equipment. Responding officers found "Kill Trump," "Left is the best," "Bernie Sanders 2020," and "Death to Trump" written on a sign in the playground. Oh my God, case closed. It says Bernie Sanders 2020. These goddamn Bernie bros are at it again. And then they got even more evidence, not just the signs. They had video footage showing the guy doing it, which we're gonna show you right now.
So as you're gonna see here, it doesn't look, looks can be deceiving, but he doesn't look like a hippie Bernie Sanders supporter so much. But you never know, but don't worry, we're gonna have his exact details for you guys on who he is. But the cops, when they saw a bald white man in a Red Sox t-shirt, they were like, this is the Bernie bro? Maybe, but let's look into it a little bit more.
So that video came out and a lot of people saw it, including that guy in the video, who's Stephen Marks of West Hartford, saw himself and turned himself in because he was rightly scared that he would eventually be caught, because they got a very good look at him right there.
Anybody in that community is gonna know who he is.
Yeah, and it turns out, not such a Bernie bro. He's actually a supporter of Donald Trump. And he told investigators he, quote, had the dumb idea to vandalize the school with what would seem to be liberal hate speech, making this a false flag operation. And oddly enough, the usual false flag people aren't really talking about it. Weird how that works out. He went on to say that his crime was, quote, out of anger towards liberals, and they're breaking major laws every day and being disrespectful towards our government. They're even writing on signs and stuff.
Okay, so let's break this down, because this is beyond awesome. So by the way, let's just
wait, really fast, just because these quotes, 2 more quotes. He says, on the record, I want to say I'm sorry. It was a stupid decision. I hope nobody wants to do the same because it's wrong, that's good. And then he says, it was just a stupid thing I did at the time. It was stupid, stupid, stupid.
Oh my God, I am totally sorry for that.
Stupid, stupid, stupid.
It reminds me of that character from Boogie Nights. Stupid, why did you do that?
That's not the only one. We've been trying to track down what that's from, but yeah, he did do that.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, yes. There you go.
Okay, and that was not, the audio was not him, but it could have been. Okay, so let's break this down. If I was the cops, I would have immediately known that it was a false flag operation. Why? Okay, kill Trump, death to Trump, Bernie Sanders 2020. Like they're Bernie, okay.
You're not gonna write Bernie 2020.
Okay, first of all, Bernie supporters on average are not the people who are looking to kill people. I know that the right wing says, no, but that was the one shooting, remember the one shooting, right? Okay, but it could be, I wouldn't end the investigation there. Okay, then you're stupid enough to write Bernie Sanders 2020 next to kill Trump. Yeah, it makes it a lot less likely. But the one that's the icing, it's the one that kills it completely. Left is the best. There's no progressive out there going to an elementary school and like, left is the best. Go, you elementary school right wingers, take that. Okay. No, that's obviously a knucklehead right winger who thinks he's clever. Again, to be fair, there's been false flags on the left too. There's the guy who like burned the black church, and it turns out he was going to that church and he wanted to blame it, and they did the thing about Donald Trump or whatever. So this happens. We
reported on that.
Yeah, and we report on that. It happens from time to time. There's knuckleheads on all sides, but I love the irony of this guy's statements, and it is emblematic of the right. He says he did it, as John quoted you, out of anger towards liberals because they're breaking major laws every day. But you broke the law, and you've been now charged with criminal mischief and breach of the peace. And so even as he is admitting he broke the law, he goes, well, they did it. I did it because they did it. But you have no graffiti, you have no, in fact, since they didn't do it, you had to pretend they did it.
Yeah.
If they had already done it, you wouldn't have to go out there and pretend to do it.
Exactly.
Right? So it is great irony and projection, and they're the lawbreakers.
Yeah.
As he is admitting to a crime.
Yeah, and making his dog his accomplice, which is the worst part for me.
I know, have you no shame? And finally, the second part of that quote, he says, they're being disrespectful towards our government. Number one, I thought you guys were the ones who hated big government. Now, all of a sudden, you're charging liberals with the great crime of being disrespectful to our government. Oh my God, a right-winger, huh? Who would have thought? And disrespectful, you wrote fuck all over an elementary school.
And left is the best, which those kids will now say for the rest of their life. Yeah, and look, for the most part, I mean, I wanted to cover this because it's funny. The guy's funny, obviously, but it does matter too, because if it hadn't come out that this guy was actually a Trump supporter, like, do you have any doubt that Fox and Friends wouldn't be showing this and saying, look at these damn leftists? I mean, we're less than a couple of weeks out from them saying that it was leftist rhetoric that led to the shooting at that Virginia baseball field. I mean, we're less than a week from that NRA video saying effectively that because liberals are such big lawbreakers and they're vandalizing things, you should take matters into your own hands, grab a gun, and possibly start shooting people. They're ready to declare civil war because of this idea that we're the violent ones. And here's a guy trying to effectively start that sort of conflict.
So let me do an immediate correction. Fake news, he didn't write fuck. I just realized he didn't. He wrote kill and death. To be fair,
we're fake news. We're fake news.
Okay, and and the second clarification is about the dog.
Animals are innocent.
So don't make him a complicit in your crime. In fact, that makes it a conspiracy. There are two things involved there.
Animals are innocent. Yet don't make them go down for a hate crime.
That's right. Yet the guys who cover conspiracies and false flag operations not covering that story. Interesting.
35% chance that one of them is going to say, you guys, you gullible libs. He's a lib, and once he got caught, he decided to say he's a conservative so he could just make us look bad. He was really out there doing it for himself.
Oh, the old double false flag operation.
In his heart, he still thinks left is best.
And animals are innocent. Yeah. All right, let's go forward.
Okay. Donald Trump is currently on his trip to Europe, and he had his big speech in Poland, which I wish we had time to break down because there were some doozies in there. But he's also less than one day out from a major sit-down bilateral meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And both White House aides and also outside observers, people who know about these sorts of events, have a lot of advice for how he should approach his preparation for this meeting and how he should conduct himself with Vladimir Putin. So Mr. Trump's aides are apparently seeking structure and predictability. They hope that a formal meeting with aides present and an agenda will leave less room for improvisation. And apparently Donald Trump is just going to, he doesn't have a list of like things he wants to cover. He's just going to talk about whatever pops into his head, which is a great way, to meet one of our adversaries. That makes sense. But the reason that the aides are worried about this is that a lot of people believe that Vladimir Putin is very experienced, obviously both in politics and in intelligence work. He is good at these sorts of meetings. He's good at exerting pressure, manipulating people, seducing people, as they say. At one point, he brought a black lab to a meeting with Angela Merkel, who's afraid of dogs after earlier in her life being bit by one, to sort of put her off her game in the meeting. So I don't know exactly, maybe he's gonna bring like a really big pair of gloves to the meeting with Trump. I don't know, but he's going to try to manipulate him in some fashion. But look at their prep. Look at what they're doing to get him ready. Aides have written a list of tweet-length sentences that summarize the main points Trump could bring up with Putin.
Oh, that's the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard. That's not just embarrassing for Donald Trump, it's embarrassing for all of us. Our leader is a guy who could only read in tweet-length sentences. Oh my God, sad baby.
There's some chance that he will say something like, you know what, Putin, I need you to stop intimidating #Ukraine. I mean Ukraine. Honestly, he wouldn't actually stand up for Ukraine. Yeah, no, I mean his prep, like we already know that they have to like say his name over and over to keep him interested in the prep. But now he's given up on the trying to get through the hard material. Like he's gonna take a couple of bullet points and then he honestly thinks that he can just sit down with Vladimir Putin and just shoot the shit. Like Vladimir Putin is gonna come in there with some extremely specific and valuable concessions he's looking to get. In case you don't know, Putin was and is a KGB officer, and KGB officers are specialists at one thing, seduction. This is according to the former US ambassador to Ukraine. Like he knows how to persuade, how to manipulate, and especially how to give him these little compliments that he knows Donald Trump is going to want. God knows what a compliment to Donald Trump can buy someone like Vladimir Putin today.
So Putin obviously not in the KGB anymore because the KGB doesn't exist. He now runs.
He means that he functions in that same role. Like it's not like he has moved on in his life from his position in that.
So to give you some concrete examples, so there's the dog example, which by the way, if I was Merkel, I would have immediately told my assistant, bring me some snakes. I'm not kidding. Bring me 3 snakes. I don't care if they're poisonous or not poisonous. I'll put it right next to this mother effer. Okay, you gonna bring a dog? All right, I'll bring a snake. You bring a snake, I'll bring a tiger. We'll do it the Chicago way, okay? But you're not gonna intimidate me. Who the hell do you think you are? So getting pushed around by this guy. So, but Putin has done it in both ways. Sometimes he cajoles, and I hate the word that we're using the word seduces. Anyway, in other ways he intimidates, and sometimes he just takes it. As Cersei Lannister once said, you know what else is power? Power is power. So he was with Robert Kraft, the guy who's the owner of the New England Patriots, and he's like, oh, nice Super Bowl ring, can I see it? And he's like, oh, sure. Putin looks at it and puts it in his pocket, walks out. It's now his Super Bowl ring. That's a true story confirmed by Robert Kraft, who is a Trump supporting Republican, okay? So Putin, this is who he is. And yes, he prepares meticulously and works really hard and is going to try to get things from us. And he has a lot of things to work with Donald Trump. Trump thinks, I got this. I already read the tweet-length sentences. Remember that he wouldn't read his briefing, so they had to bring it down to a single page with pictures on it, not joking. Those are sources inside the White House that are saying that. And then now the pretty pictures aren't enough. A whole page is too much. We're down to tweet length. Like Putin, bad guy. Oh, okay. Putin, bad guy. Maybe. I don't know. He gives me stuff.
Maybe we could just a couple of GIFs, maybe to illustrate exactly what he should do. But
maybe a wrestling video. Do you see?
Maybe.
He's like the Undertaker. So you get it? He comes in. He's like the bad guy. He's dark, and oh, dark. I get it, right? Bad guy.
But he uses dirty tricks. It's like a street fight, basically. So if you get a chair, maybe something wrapped in barbed wire, you can use it. Now there was some advice also given by a former KGB officer who's part of like the resistance now in Russia, who said Trump should be calm, listen to all of Putin's arguments, and avoid making any spontaneous decisions. That is not his strong suit. Putin is going to be charming. As to him, Trump is more important than most of his closest cronies. The Kremlin depends on the future relations with USA. They live with Trump on their mind. But he does like making those spontaneous decisions. He can't keep his own attention for the span of a sentence.
So there's 2 different things going on here to summarize. One is that even Trump, and I say even Trump advisors and aides, but actually especially Trump advisors and aides who have to work with him every day, realize what a schmuck he is. They're like, don't let him improv anything because he will bungle it. So let's be really tightly produced so that he can't say anything stupid because he is that stupid. We know, we work with him every day. And we will try to explain it to him in bite-sized sentences because the president is a moron and can't read past 140 characters, right? So they know that, the guys who work with him. These are not people who made it up. These are sources inside the White House, okay? So the second part of this is that, guys, you're wasting, the guys at the White House, to be fair to them, they're Republicans. I don't like them. I got no love for them at all, okay? But you're wasting your time because they are actually, they sound like they are earnest people trying to get whatever they want. And in their case, it's right-wing policies, some of which I agree with is in favor of US interests and some of which I don't agree with and is a bad idea. But Trump is gonna give Putin what he wants because they already made a deal. So Trump will go there and go, oh, okay. Maybe we should lift the sanctions. Oh, I did that out of improv. Oh, I got the tweets wrong. Oops. I'm being fair to those Republicans who work at the White House who I can't stand. You guys don't, very, very, very likely, the overwhelming majority of you have no idea what deal Trump might have made with the Russians already. So you're going in there like trying to explain to him what US interests are. He doesn't give a damn about US interests. He gives a damn about Trump interests. So all of this is probably for show. The reality is Putin already played his tricks. He did that before the election and during the election, so he doesn't have to go in there and do any sort of master manipulation when they meet in person. that mission has already been accomplished.
And two more things. I mean, we're not going to go over Trump's press conference today, but Vladimir Putin has got to be feeling good that Trump once again refused to accept the intelligence community's conclusion that there was Russian interference in the election. So he is thereby helping Russia in their efforts to continue to do this in more and more cases. But in addition, just to summarize, like we have our concerns obviously about some of the people trying to control him, but there's this idea that theoretically they can maybe exert a little bit of influence, people who are a little bit more responsible, a little bit more competent, and some of them might be competent. But when we're talking about an extremely important meeting, the first big sit-down meeting with a small group of one of the big powers around the globe, one of our chief adversaries, these could change based on the list of people, but the list of people who are currently known on the Russian and the US side to be in that room, the Russian officials have 80+ years of government experience. The US officials that'll be in that room, less than 1 year of government experience for the entire group.
Look, as I said before, the die has already cast, so it doesn't matter that much that what happens in this meeting. But if it did, we'd be doubly screwed.
Yeah.
All right, last quick fun story for you guys.
Okay. During his trip to Poland, Donald Trump did try to reach out to Polish leadership, but it didn't really work out for him. Let's watch.
So this is the leader of Poland, and then no, wrong. His first lady, I don't think so. Then the best, of course, she's actually following etiquette. We'll explain in a second.
Yeah.
The best is his look, though. Okay, that's the theoretical snub. And then look at the look. Look at the look. Oh yeah, I know how these women are. I know it.
Yeah. So it's the wife of the president.
She's supposed to shake the first lady's hand first, and then the president's hand. But of course, our president is our commander in schmuck. Didn't get briefed on any of the etiquette when they probably tried to brief him on the etiquette. He's like, who needs etiquette? I got it.
I reached for things. I was gonna grab her by the hand. And yeah, so like she's not being rude or whatever. She's just shaking. The whole thing doesn't matter, obviously. But his look, where he's so mad. And what I think it actually is partially it's not knowing the etiquette, but it's partially that I don't think he even considered the possibility that she would want to interact in any way with his wife first. He forgets that his wife is there constantly. I mean, you remember at the inauguration, they did the comparison video where Obama gets out of the car, waits for Michelle, they walk up together. But he just gets out and walks up there, and Melania is just standing in the background. He doesn't even remember that she's there.
To be fair to him, she won't even hold his hand. So.
That's true. He doesn't have a lot of luck with handshakes recently.
Look at the eyes, man. You know, so Poland has been great to Trump, and okay, that's already funny. It's just funny. That's all. And then look at the look at the look, and that little smirk, like I'll get you, right? That little right. So. And to be fair to Trump, well, we'll see if that turns out to be the case. But remember, other foreign leaders have refused to shake his hand because he started that nonsense.
Because he's such a weirdo when it comes to
because he did it with Merkel, like he wouldn't shake her hand, and then he would try to shake other people's hands even more forcefully. So then it became a game. So when she did that, he probably thought, oh, here we go again, right? They're trying to snub me. Right. So look, he apparently demanded that there be cheering crowds in Poland for him, and they said, don't worry, we'll have that for you. Oh, that's so sad. That's so sad. Okay, but now that he feels he got snubbed, and you think he's gonna listen to anybody who tells him about etiquette afterwards? He's not gonna listen to anybody. And you know how fragile his ego is because he's a sensitive little child.
Yep.
So God help Poland.
God help her. We don't know what he's gonna tweet about her soon.
Yeah, oh boy, I don't even want to think about it. Okay, we gotta go, guys. When we come back, Hobby Lobby, who profess to be such great Christians, perhaps not as much. You will very much enjoy that story. And then Paul Ryan, that's probably my favorite story of the day. The American Taliban. Now that sounds like hyperbole, but wait till you hear his form of Sharia law and how he's enforcing it in the House. It's amazing. Come right back.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was mad. Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World. This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power.
We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
If fill-in host beats CNN and headline news combined, at some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tell someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut-up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, you won't believe the meeting that I just had.
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
Hey, Cenk, what's up?
And I'm reading some of the comments on a YouTube video I did. What's a cuck? Go.
What date are we recording this?
Oh my God, it's 4:20. We'll be right back.
Please stand by.
A few minutes later, a little longer than a few minutes later, one eternity later.
All right, back on 420 old school. It's begun already, dude. It's begun. Okay, so during that break, there's some chance we did something.
2 days on time. You never walked into a factory and they always have about how many days without an accident? 2.
Back on the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Brett Ehrlich with you guys. And we did a rousing edition of Old School together last night.
Yes, we did.
With Michael Schur and John Idarola. Oh, by the way, I know that some of you guys had trouble hearing the beginning of it if you're watching live, if you remember. Don't worry, we did record it right, so when it gets put up in the member section, you'll be able to hear the whole thing.
Also, I did go home afterwards and watch Moana.
That's a bit of a teaser.
Oh, really?
And I did cry my eyes out.
You did, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
It's touching, and it's about, for me, it's her belief in herself. That's what gets me. You have to watch the old school to really understand the context of that, but it's a free month, so go check it out.
That's right. We talked about the things that make us cry as guys, so you'll enjoy that. So again, as Brett said, it's free this month. So tytnetwork.com/join. Get your free month of membership, and you got to put in free TYT as the promo code. So click the $10 a month thing, unless you want to do more, you want to pay $25, that's not free, but I would love you for it, don't get me wrong, okay? But if you click the $10 thing and you put in free TYT as the promo code, you'll get a month of membership for free, so you can check it out. Old School's there, the post games that Brett and I did yesterday and we'll do today will be there. All the post games are there. And tonight we got Aggressive Progressive at 9 o'clock Eastern. You can watch the first segment for free, but if you're a member, and again, you could be a member for free this month, you'll get to watch all the Aggressive Progressives.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, let me read you some tweets and then we'll go on to these great stories. Peter Kelly says Putin will be going into the meeting with high intel and Trump will be going in with Breitbart. Oh boy. Ryan Zephyr says, left is the best. Wow, that's so corny. It sounds like it was written by a corporate Democrat. They were actually doing that fun little slogan. I don't know if you saw that, Democrats 2018, and they were asking people to fill in the slogan. And one of the slogans they suggested was, well, did you see the other guys? It's like, oh no, that's so sad. That's so sad.
It's a pitch meeting. It's a brainstorm. All ideas are good ideas. It's a safe environment.
Except when you make it public.
Yeah, except that.
Christina Oakes writes in, I don't know a single progressive that has ever said left is the best. Leftists are cynical and self-deprecating to a fault. It's true, like that. There's not a lot of, maybe I might be among the only ones. And as I explained in the post game yesterday, I'm a little jingoistic, so it makes sense. I started as a Republican, so I'd probably be the only leftist in the country who's like, progressives are #1. Okay. Anyway, all right, let's go forward. What do you got for us?
All right. Hobby Lobby's back in the news, and I would like to go out on a limb and say this is the weirdest reason to be in the news that I could think of. It sounds like a Mad Lib. They were caught trying to import like $1.6 million worth of ancient artifacts. And they got caught for it because things were labeled weird. We'll get into it. But they are being forced to pay $3 million in fines, give all of those artifacts back to the government, and then change their ways to make sure that when they are importing ancient artifacts, they do it in a way that adheres to the ways of Customs and Border Patrol. So this all started back in 2010. In 2010, an expert on cultural property law retained by Hobby Lobby warned the company that the acquisition of cultural property, likely from Iraq, which is where these things seem to be from, including cuneiform tablets and cylinder seals, which you need, carries a risk that such objects may have been looted from archaeological sites in Iraq. But the report from the Department of Justice goes on to say that notwithstanding these warnings, in December 2010, a few months later, Hobby Lobby went through with the purchase of 5,500 artifacts comprised of cuneiform tablets and bricks, clay bullae, and cylinder seals for $1.6 million. What do these kinds of things look like? Well, let's take a look at them. This is what they spent their money on. Beautiful.
It looks neat.
Yeah. That looks so different from other balls of rock.
Yeah, that one just seems like a rock. But
these are apparently balls that have inscriptions on them originally or some kind of seal on them. They are of some cultural importance. Just so you know that they proceeded with this despite the many red flags listed by the federal government, which says that there was conflicting information about where the artifacts had been stored. They were displayed informally when showed to the president of Hobby Lobby who was trying to buy them, which makes it seem like the guy just opened his coat and showed them.
He had balls in his coat?
He had balls in his coat.
Okay.
Is that cuneiform in your pocket? Are you happy to see me? Hobby Lobby wired the payment for the artifacts to 7 different personal bank accounts held in the names of other individuals, so they didn't even pay the person.
That's not a red flag. That's basically saying, I know what I'm doing is illegal.
Yeah.
Like if you're buying it from an official person who can actually sell you the artifacts, which is like there's a whole black market in artifacts. So this is not a thing that's new to people. They know that if you're buying an artifact, you have to be really careful because it's a really serious crime if you buy it when an artifact that is actually state property of another government, right? So when a guy does this, hey, you want to see? But no, don't send it to me. Don't send it to the government of Iraq. Don't send it to anyone. Send it to these 7 different personal bank accounts under different names. You know what you're doing is illegal. Of course it's illegal.
Yeah, also the people who shipped it labeled it stuff not like ancient artifacts, which there's ways that kind of indicate you need to label it what it is so that they can make sure that it wasn't looted from an archaeological site. They just labeled it ceramics, which I guess technically it is, and tile pieces, which I guess technically some of these could be construed as that. But I think when that goes through customs, if it says tile, they're thinking like for my kitchen, not for display. Which brings the question, why are they buying all this stuff?
That's actually the best part of the story. Okay, so since 2009, Hobby Lobby, you guys might remember Hobby Lobby. They're the ones that did that Supreme Court case and about how they want to be able to put their religion on their employees. These are my religious beliefs and you have to live by them, and hence I don't want you to be able to get insurance that covers abortions or anything like that because Jesus didn't like abortions, although he never mentioned it. Anyway, in 2009, since they love Jesus and the Bible so much, they started buying historical Bibles and other artifacts. So far, great, no problem. You like the Bible, you want to buy historical Bibles, that's lovely as long as it's legal, right? And it turns out that they got really into it and they started buying more and more artifacts, and then they started doing it apparently illegally here because here they've admitted it was illegal.
Yeah.
Right? So remind me again, and then they say that it was to fulfill the company's mission and passion for the Bible. I'm pretty sure thou shalt not steal is in the Bible. But I mean, it's such a perfect microcosm of a fundamentalist ideology. Like, oh, I love the Bible so much, I want to steal it. Right? And by the way, if you stole a Bible, that's not such a bad thing, right?
I don't know.
Steal, right? Because at least you'll have a Bible.
If it was placed there by the Gideons in a hotel room, I'm sure you can take it.
They put it there for a reason, right? It's a little ironic, but if you steal important artifacts and lie about it on purpose, that's pretty un-Christian, giving the Christians the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, let's go to graphic 7. This is what Hobby Lobby has agreed to in the wake of all this. They said Hobby Lobby has accepted responsibility for its past conduct and agreed to take steps to remedy the deficiencies that resulted in its unlawful importation of the artifacts. Hobby Lobby has agreed to the forfeiture of all the artifacts. But that first part being like, oh, we'll just make sure this doesn't happen again. It's like, there are so many steps along the way where it is so obvious that you didn't want people to know about this. Like when you go and enter a room and it's informally displayed and things are labeled from other countries and go from port to port without being labeled properly. It's absolutely the knowingly part of the law that you did this, and it's so frustrating how it's like, listen, our employees, you won't have access to birth control, but hey, we have $1.6 million to spend on Mesopotamian cuneiform.
Yeah, no, Brett's exactly right. It makes it seem like it was an honest mistake. Like Brett and I are sitting next to each other in a desk, let's say, and you had your charger plugged in and I thought it was my charger and I took it home with me. That's an honest mistake, I won't do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I'll take steps to make sure that doesn't happen again, label it.
You had an ancient artifact that you displayed in a super weird way that I had to give to secret bank accounts and we mislabeled it and sent it over here. Oops.
It's so good.
So I guess we won't make that honest mistake again.
Where do these go when they get confiscated by the government?
Presumably, I hope that they have a process by which they determine where they actually came from and return it to its rightful owner.
Part of me hopes it gets put on a forklift and put next to the Ark of the Covenant in the last scene of like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Because then the rightful owner, Harrison Ford, can find it. Okay, one last piece of irony that I love. These are the same conservatives who are like, gotta protect the borders, man. We've got to strengthen customs. Oops, they violated laws regarding customs, but hey, you know what? Apparently already strengthened because customs caught them.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a great job catching Hobby Lobby. I mean, good for them. All right, let's move on to the next story. There's a new dress code in place for those of you who want to visit Capitol Hill, and you've got to wear sleeves. That is the word on the street, according to a new report that came out. It all started with a report from CBS where there was a reporter who tried to get into an area known as the Speaker's Lobby and was told she couldn't get in because she didn't have sleeves on her outfit. By the way, it's June when this happened, June, July in Washington, D.C. It's super hot there. And women aren't wearing, some women decided not to wear sleeves, although their shirts are probably pretty expensive. And this is what happened to this woman who tried to get into the Speaker's Lobby. Apparently, according to the report, she was forced to improvise. She ripped out pages from her notebook and stuffed them into her dress's shoulder openings to create sleeves, according to witnesses. And she was still rejected. But it's not just her. Others have tweeted out that this kind of thing happens. Kay Tully McManus tweets, "This is for real. Fellow female reporters barred from Speaker's Lobby for wearing sleeveless dresses while doing their jobs. It's hot in DC," as she says. Another says, "Can confirm I was warned the next time I would be removed." This is apparently important to Paul Ryan, who said to Congress recently, members of Congress should wear appropriate business attire during all sittings of the House, however brief their appearance on the floor may be. And then went on, according to Jezebel, the only rule in place, the only written rule simply states that women should wear, quote, appropriate attire, and the rest is left up to the enforcement of the Speaker of the House.
So to give you more details about what Ryan wants here. This applies to the reporters, but also to the lawmakers and the staff.
Yeah.
So he's checking out his staff nonstop to see if they're violating the rules. And it's not just sleeveless dresses. There's one other very important violation. You have to cover your toes.
See, that goes without saying to me.
You think so?
Because I don't know if it made the final draft of the Constitution, but there was a whole toe thing.
Oh, there was
a whole footnote.
The lost amendment.
The lost footnote.
Oh, the lost footnote.
Oh God, I'm sorry. That was a long walk.
Okay, we got there. I got it. So, look, guys. I mean, it's funny because it's absurd, and apparently Paul Ryan has a foot fetish. Let's just keep it real. I mean, what's with the random? You can't wear open-toed shoes.
So weird.
The speaker can never see your toes. If he sees your toes, bad things will happen. What's with the weird toe thing?
It's just so strange. Like, if you look at photo after photo of women presenting important documents and making presentations, Melania Trump or Ivanka Trump making public appearances for very official White House purposes, she wears sleeveless outfits, and it's weird for someone to say like that's inappropriate. It wouldn't stop me. It's so strange.
And so this is when I refer to them as the American Taliban and talk about their Sharia law. This is their Sharia law. Look, nobody's getting killed, thank God, right? But is it against the freedom of the press? Of course it is. Is it un-American to say, hey, I'm going to tell women exactly how they should cover themselves up? So that might be your particular religious thing if you're a Muslim or if you're a Christian, apparently. But you got to separate that out from your official government business. You can't tell a reporter who's there. Or I think it's, just as bad, if not worse, to say to your own staff members, I don't know why, if it's like some religious zealotry or you're secretly turned on by it and can't control yourself, I don't want to see your arms or toes under any circumstances because I will flip out.
Yeah, that's the implication. I can't get around it. It reminds me of like the teachers who say like these girls in class are wearing outfits that are too revealing, and then you see the photo and it's just like their shirt comes to like here and you see their arms. It's like it's implying that they somehow are sexualizing these women, even though to someone who has seen these photos of the people they're talking about, they're not being inappropriate. And sleeveless isn't enough. There's a difference between like a nice sleeveless top and then like wearing a tank top and like you're going to the beach. That's not what these women were wearing.
And look, women can't win because if they cover themselves up too much, then you pass laws saying you're not allowed to wear burqas or burkinis, and so we haven't done that in this country. Thank God. I'm not in favor of the burqa, but I think we live in a free country, and they don't have to abide by my beliefs, right? And so, but in France, okay, you're not allowed to wear a burkini. Now here in America, you're not allowed to wear sleeveless dresses. So you can't show too much, you can't show too little.
Right.
So what the hell are you supposed to do? Like, but when it comes to guys, there just isn't the same rules. There just isn't. Like you'll have things like no flip-flops, and you have to have a shirt on.
There is
like,
a tie. There is a tie of shame that I saw online where like one staffer posted a photo called the tie of shame. If he didn't wear a tie to work, they give him like the ugliest tie, which actually works counter to your intention to make everyone look respectful if you're putting them in a tie that fulfills your general obligation to wear neckwear, but it makes him look ridiculous and you're admitting it by calling it the tie of shame. I just think business attire covers it. Like it covers it.
Yeah, don't get pervy and tell us all the body parts you want to see and don't want to see, and then complain about Sharia law. Finally, I know that Paul Ryan is in favor of formal attire. That is why he would never be caught, especially as now Speaker of the House, esteemed guy, ran for vice president, right? In anything but formal attire. So can I see a picture of Paul Ryan real quick? Oh wait, I see many body parts here.
Dang.
That appears to be forbidden knees and.
Every time. This is what happens when you leave it to Beaver.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay, when it comes to him, apparently informal attire is, he thought these pictures were cool.
Oh, and there he is.
That's sleeveless.
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 He's saying no. A universal sign of no. Do not wear what I'm wearing. I am jumping out of my seat. I can't contain myself.
We got to pass laws against that.
That's amazing. That one's so ridiculous.
Okay, all right, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're not done with absurdity yet. Well, okay, so there's a story about the Kardashians that is actually relevant in the news cycle, and there's also a hilarious part of it that I love. And was there discrimination against a certain kind of actor? We'll talk about that as well when we come back.
I want to do a quick announcement before we get onto the stories because I think it's important and I want to encourage you guys to go. All right, so TYT will be at Politicon this year. The dates are July 29th and the 30th. And I'm actually extremely excited. In the past, when I've done Politicon events, it's always been panels. Last year I did that panel with a number of anti-Bernie Sanders people, and of course it was a lot of fun because I was the only one on there that supported Bernie. But this year we're gonna be debating people. Debates are gonna happen.
Can I just say, if you missed Politicon last year, that was a mistake, because Anna's panel alone was worth the price of admission, because they love balance. They love talking to the press about balance, right? But all of a sudden, there was only one Bernie Sanders supporter and wall-to-wall Hillary Clinton supporters.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Including a lot of the people you see on TV. And she mauled. The entire crowd was on your side. But look, it's not just that you kicked ass. It's not that just the crowd was on your side. It's that if the crowd, even if like it's unfair because the crowd is all Bernie Sanders, then maybe you should have a couple of Bernie Sanders panelists, right?
Right.
But they didn't need it because they had Anna.
Well, and it was a fun discussion, and I really enjoyed it. But this year is also going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get involved in a number of debates. Cenk, who are you debating?
Oh boy, here we go. Buckle up, everybody. You asked for it, you're going to get it. Ben Shapiro. Okay.
Bloop, 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 bloop. All right.
Right wingers have been asking for quite some time. Come and see.
All right, and I will be debating Ann Coulter.
Damn.
Ann versus Anna. Anna versus Ann. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait. And Hassan will also be there, and he is also debating someone who is a millennial who is very much against millennials. Like that's his whole shtick. So that should be a lot of fun as well.
That ought to be great. Woke Bay versus Sleepy Bay.
Anyway, you guys can get your tickets by going to politicon.com/TYT. Politicon.com/TYT. It takes place in Pasadena, California. We really hope to see you guys there, so definitely check it out.
And if you're watching this as a video on YouTube or Facebook, we'll have the link down below for you guys.
easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
You said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
When news is breaking and when you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time. When news breaks, when news is breaking and you like, when news is breaking and you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time for Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Brett Ehrlich with you guys. Captain Jingle Pants writes in, Paul Ryan and Mike Pence have some weird issues with women. That's still one of my favorite things.
The one where he's like, I don't even look at women unless my wife's there to look at them with me.
That too, but no, that it's the more absurd thing at the convention. They're like, and Mike Pence, we got a nickname for him in Indiana. We just call him Mike. That's not a nickname. That's
yeah.
I can't get over how funny that is.
You already said that was his name a second ago.
That's how great Mike is. We call him Mike.
So strange.
Anyway, Lisa Mojica writes in that they are trying to erase Michelle Obama's legacy. You know how she used to rock the sleeveless shirts?
I guess that's true.
Maybe they are. They're bitter
weird.
at that. Yeah. Michael Contreras writes in, Paul Ryan needs a dress code on female staff because he can't seem to take control of his own staff. Hashtag, if you know what I mean. No, Michael, we got it.
Thanks for that visual.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Ugh. I guess Paul Ryan's like, if I can't show my arms, no one can.
All right, let's go to Black China.
All right. I don't know if you've been following this whole Rob Kardashian Black China thing, but it has escalated to legal levels. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Rob Kardashian, who is the Kardashian brother, has been romantically linked, married to Black China. They had a baby together, but on the 4th of July, he posted some images of her doing some very naughty things. Naked photos in addition to illicit acts on the bed that he shares with her, and then tweeted out and then tagged it with all these strange things like, ha ha ha, China just sent me this video saying happy 4th of July, what a crazy person, and it's her with another man on his bed. And then he listed all the money that he spent on her. I've spent $100,000 on her surgeries after she had the baby to fix her, and $200,000 on this. I bought her Ferrari, but all the while sending these naked photos of her out until he had his Instagram shut down, and then he went to Twitter. It's been a whole big thing. Well, now Black China's lawyer has stepped in saying this is revenge porn, essentially. I'm looking into it anyway, and saying I am exploring all legal remedies and protections available to my client at this time in attempts to best advise her on how she may want to proceed. And so yeah, that's where it is. Is it revenge porn? What do you think?
So I think that America is in a sad state of affairs, and we shouldn't be surprised that Donald Trump is president when we live in this soap opera. So we've got Rob Kardashian, the degree to which he should be irrelevant in our world is immeasurable, right? What has Rob Kardashian ever done with his life? Except his dad once knew OJ and his sister made a porn tape. Hence, we should all care about what this obvious, absolute loser is doing with his life. I mean, look, maybe I'm being a little harsh. Sorry, Kardashians. Okay, but so he all of his bragging is like, oh yeah, she took all my money and I gave her a Ferrari while she was sleeping with other guys. What?
Yeah, to your point, I am also like how relevant he is. I am mad that I know all the answers to that. Like I know that like, all right, so Black China was with Tyga, who they had a kid together, and now Tyga is with Kylie, and so she might have just been jealous and saw an easy mark in Rob, and so she just had a baby with him and took all this money. And then the next thing you say, that's what Snoop Dogg's saying. That's what T.I. is saying. They are all stepping in and saying like, and he was on Dancing with the Stars too.
Wow,
yeah.
My bad. I didn't know he was like that. He had that kind of talent.
Yeah.
So now, which gets to my two favorite parts of the story. One is that the Kardashians are worried, and I'm not kidding, that Rob is hurting the family name.
So weird.
Can you hurt that name? But they're like, this is a very valuable brand, and he's damaging the brand. And they said, and even worse than damaging the brand, they have a 7-month-old kid, so I guess that might be bad too.
Yeah, we don't want him to be the one with the sex tape. We want to wait till she's old enough to participate in the proud Kardashian, tradition of a sex tape herself.
No, let's, for God's sake, let's keep the kids out. I hope the Kardashians understand that. But like the idea that the Kardashian family who got famous off of a porn tape, and look, God bless, it's a free country and I'm pro porn. Okay, so I don't want you to get the wrong idea and I'm not shaming anyone. But for you to then turn around and be like, our illustrious family name, for you to have, terribly damaged it by putting out other sexually explicit content online, which is how we got famous in the first place.
We got famous again for the sex tape after originally being famous for being OJ's friend during a murder trial.
Where he cut 2 people's heads off. Anyway.
Civilly proved, but not in a court of criminal behavior.
Yes, and then finally, the new guy that Black China is apparently dating, God help us all, that any of us care about any of that. Although yes, I agree with you. Yes, you do get sucked into the drama, right? I watch Pop Trigger too.
Yeah, not proud of it, but I am.
So, but he is now saying he is shocked and chagrined by what's happened, but would like Rob Kardashian to come on his reality show to talk about the makeout photos.
So ridiculous. It's so sad. Well, I don't like Rob's behavior to make these decisions, but he does have like a history of like poor mental health problems. So hopefully he gets the help he needs. But stop doing this. Listen to T.I. Listen to Snoop Dogg. Just put it away. Put it all away. Yeah. All right, we have time for one more story?
Yes, and to be fair to the Kardashians, we have elected a person of questionable mental health to be our president, who was also a reality show star.
Yeah.
So, glass house.
So crazy.
Yes.
All right, so the last story of the day is CBS has a show called Hawaii Five-0. Not the old one, the revitalized version of it. And they just lost 2 of their main cast members out of the 4. Here's a photo of the cast. So the 2 Asian Americans are Grace Park and Daniel Day Kim. You'll recognize them from Battlestar Galactica and Lost. They just wanted to get paid as much as the other co-stars, Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Conn. And that all fell apart. And so they will not be back this next season, which guess what season it is? How long do you think this show has been on?
No, I would have never guessed it right. I saw it in the article. I would have guessed like, wow, has it been on for 2? No, maybe even 3 years. Turns out
168 episodes. So this will be its 8th season.
Hawaii Five-0 has been on for 7 freaking seasons?
Yeah.
That might be longer than the original.
Yeah, so Daniel Day Kim said he had made himself available for the negotiations, but they fell through because he was not going to get paid as much as his other co-stars. And I don't watch the show, but I assumed it was like, the reason I know it is because of Jin and Battlestar Galactica girl. So that's it. I know Scott Kahn, but whatever. Anyhow, he says, as an Asian American actor, I know firsthand how difficult it is to find opportunities at all, let alone play a well-developed three-dimensional character like Chin Ho. I will miss him dearly, he said. Though transitions can be difficult, I encourage us to all look beyond the disappointment to this moment, to the bigger picture. The path to equality is rarely easy. And then he gets a little dig in saying, I've got new acting projects on the horizon. And as a producer, my company 3AD has its first show, The Good Doctor, set to air this fall on ABC. I hope you'll tune in.
Yeah, so he was very gracious. He actually thanked a couple of the executives at CBS by name.
Kurtzman and Orsi.
Yeah, and given what happened, that's surprising. So bless his heart for being gracious about it overall. So what was the big difference between the two sets of actors? Well, the white actors got 2% more, and you're thinking they lost. I mean, CBS says we offered them a lucrative contract and larger than what we were offering them before. They didn't say they offered them the same as the white actors, though. They just said it's large. Now, if you think they're going to war over 2%, no, that's not what the problem is. Okay, although on principle, I suppose you could. No, the white actors get points, which means that they can get a percentage of the show's revenue in the future. And they went over 100 episodes, which means that they could actually go into syndication and get a ton of money in reruns.
Yep.
Right? But the Asian actors will not be getting them. Now, if you said, look, they happen to be Asian and those guys happen to be white, but the white guys are more famous, like if it was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, I would totally agree with you on that and go, hey, look, just because they're Asian doesn't mean that they get to be as famous as the other guys, right? And I know Asians don't have as many roles and maybe that's unfair as always, but in this case, that's not true. The Asian actors are more famous than the white actors.
I mean, let's be fair. It's, when I describe these people, I say Battlestar Galactica girl, James Caan's son, the guy from that movie with J-Lo, and then Jin. So I've only really named one person by the actual name of the character. And so I know him the best. He should be the one making all the money. But they say it's a true ensemble cast. The best part about the statement, I will add the graphic 20A. This is from Peter Lenkoff, the EP and showrunner, the executive producer. He says, Hawaii Five-0 has and will continue to showcase one of the most diverse casts on TV. And then he goes, some of my best friends are Shai McBride, Jorge Garcia, Mark Dacascos, and then just lists all these people, and it goes on. There's another graphic with people's names, as well as Daniel and Grace. All of these great talents, regulars, are reoccurring. It's just like, that's the part that gets me, is like, no, we still have a very diverse cast, we just won't pay them as much.
Yeah, and look, by the way, they should get credit for having a diverse cast, although it's cast in Hawaii. So if you had an all-white cast in Hawaii, it'd be a little weird, right? But bless your hearts. Now just take the extra step, which is not that hard, of paying them the same amount of money. And I know there are a lot of different factors, but and you can disagree on who's more famous. But these guys are at worst at the same level. And it's an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to pay them the same amount.
All the people on Friends went to bat together and said, listen, we all want to get paid the same amount because we're equal billing, and they got it. So I don't know, that's a shame.
All right, do you want to come back for the other two stories? Or?
Yeah, we'll do one.
Okay, all right, so guys, for the Sirius Satellite Radio audience, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow. For everybody watching on tytnetwork.com, we do have one more story for you. So come right back and we'll share that with you guys. Okay, so it's not bye-bye time yet. That'll be afterwards. So stay with us if you're watching online. We'll be right back. back on Young Turks. Ruth Iverson writes in, who's watching this Hawaii New 50 show?
It's amazing.
I know you meant 50, but you wrote 50 and it was funny. I had no idea it was still on. I think I saw it once. Me too, I watched it once. And I realized that if I wasn't so busy, yeah, I'd watch TV.
Yeah.
Because like, there's nothing good in it, but there's no harm in it either.
Yeah, there's no harm in television. There's some good TV on, but I feel like it's really difficult to watch the top network shows. Like I watched Big Brother. It was like my big tent pole summer show that I watched. But other than that, everything else is
you know
streaming.
What? Let's save it for the post game because I'll tell you the only times that I watched live TV and what I gained from that, because I watched a bunch of things in a row and I'm glad you reminded me of that because I wanted to talk about it.
Awesome.
So we'll do that in the post game. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member, and again, it's free this month. So go nuts, and you got to enter free TYT as the promo code to get it for free. All right, what's next?
All right, finally you can snort chocolate. Am I right? Let's take a look at this brand spanking new product from Nick Anderson, a 29-year-old from a company called Legal Lean. It's called Coco Loco. I don't know, it seems like it's trying to tap into the Four Loco craze. It is available for right now, it's on sale for $10 or for $5 off the $24.99 price tag. It is chocolate powder you can snort. And what does it do for you? According to the website, it gives you an endorphin rush, a serotonin rush, which it compares to the elevated mood similar to the feeling of ecstasy, a euphoric energy, and then, don't worry, you also will get a calm focus. So it's trying to be ecstasy, Coke, and Adderall all rolled into one, all the way to the snorting. Would you do this?
Well, it depends on the other things that you're gonna tell me. First of all, you know what I like about my food? Tasting it.
Right.
So.
But most of taste is smell.
Ooh, good counterpoint. Counterpoint.
Yes.
Okay.
But you can smell things without literally putting them in your nose, I guess.
Yes. Counterpoint to yourself. Okay, so I've never felt a need to snort anything. I'm not that guy.
Gotcha.
So it's not like when you say it to me, it's like, but you can snort it. I'm like, and? Okay. So chocolate is delicious. I prefer eating it.
Yeah.
And let's just say that I'm a little dubious that it's going to give me ecstasy and Adderall all at once, perfectly legal and safe, et cetera. So
if you're wondering what the experts in the medical field are saying about this, and Dr. Andrew Lane, who runs the Sinus Center at Johns Hopkins, which is a reputable institution, says, what are the risks? He says there's no data. As far as I can tell, no one studied what happens if you inhale chocolate into your nose, which I believe. No one studied. He said it's not clear how much of each ingredient would be absorbed into the nasal mucous membranes, and while putting solid material into your nose, you could imagine it getting stuck in there or the chocolate mixing with your mucus to create a paste that could block your sinuses. Good to know.
The chocolate mucus paste made it slightly less interesting. Slightly less appetizing. Okay, you know what? I would try it.
You would try it?
Yeah. Would I continue to pay money for it? No. But if you says, hey, this is just chocolate.
Yeah.
Do you want to snort it?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you only live once.
I don't know. And people who have tried it and also own the company say, so basically the guy who invented it said it really gives me that focus that I need and all these things. I just don't believe it at all.
But I believe it enough to try it, Brett, because you know why? Because I am just like everybody else. I'm that sucker who, when I see LA's best hamburger, right. I'm like, is it? And then I go in and try it.
World famous, Tommy's with one M. That's the hamburger stand all over. It's like fake Tommy's famous hamburgers. Yeah, it's amazing. What makes me a little dubious is the person who created this, Nick Anderson, a 29-year-old who started with $10,000, started the company which is called Legal Lean, which lean is another word for purple drink, which is kind of a codeine cough syrup that is illegal. And Lil Wayne, just ask him with his experiences with that. And so he tried to make a legal version of that using just herbal extracts. And if you read some of the reviews of it, they're pretty hilarious. Like, it just made me sleepy. It didn't work at all. But the guy says that he's selling somewhere between 40 to 50,000 bottles of Legal Lean each month for $12.50.
So this is a thing.
There's a thing, but he's doing legal lean, and now he's trying to do legal for loco because it's like for cocoa, but then it's also snorting stuff. So you're doing scissor and legal lean.
So I think basically what this is you'll get to pretend to be cool,
right,
without actually doing anything illegal.
It's just like people will see you at the club going, and they'll be like, "Are you doing cocaine?" And they'll be like, "Why is it brown all over your nose?" I don't know. Like you're sniffing butts. But I thought that was really an amazing thing. One time my friend was doing, I think Bill Romanowski had a powdered energy drink, and I got
Of course he did.
Yeah, it's called Pure Romo Nutrition. And,
of course it is.
And they were like, snort it. My friend was like, snort it. And I was like, as a joke, like, because it's funny to me at the time. And then he was also a doctor, and he's like, that is super bad for you.
Oh, really?
He's like, that is so bad, because when you snort it, it just goes straight into your bloodstream. Like you're absorbing it there as opposed to it going through your digestive system and getting broken up all the normal ways that your body handles.
But you know what? That makes me want to try the Coco Loco more.
Yeah.
Because maybe if you get chocolate right in the bloodstream, it might get some of those endorphins going.
It's so weird.
Or very likely not.
Not at all.
And if you don't know who Bill Romanowski is, he was a total maniac football player. Might have been like the most penalized player in history. I might be making that up, but if I'm not, he was certainly among the top. And so if you want to try his energy stuff, I wouldn't recommend it.
It was a drink you're supposed to stir in, but we snorted it. That was
and were you
stupid.
okay?
I was fine, but after my friend who's a doctor was like, that is the dumbest thing you can do, I felt really scared for a while, but I didn't feel any physical effects.
So, okay, last thing. I have friends who, of course, the minute they got pepper spray, like mace or whatever, right? They were like, oh, well, obviously we have to try it.
So bad.
Okay, they're like, oh, fuck, oh man, it's don't the burn.
Yes, that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah. And what's the bear spray or whatever, right?
Oh, the bear spray, yeah.
Yeah,
so like,
you know Steve O thought that it was like mosquito spray that you spray on yourself, and he was about to spray it on the kids when his wife tackled him. No. Mama Grizzly was like, no, you sprayed on the bears.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Okay, anyways, all right guys. We do have a post game for you guys where we will talk about what kind of TV I watch, live TV, because on Old School last night we talked about what do we watch that we record, right? And what are the lessons I learned from that? They're interesting. So tytnetwork.com/join to join, and free TYT because it's a free month this month. And then, oh, by the way, don't forget about Politicon too, because we are going July 29th and 30th. And Anna will be debating Ann Coulter. I will be debating Ben Shapiro. Haas will be debating Sleepy Bay, some right-wing young guy who's, I don't know if he's rich, but anyway, or just ill-informed.
We need to get him some Coco Loco to wake him up.
Oh yeah. You know? So don't miss that. Super last thing, don't miss Pop Trigger, okay? So Brett is one of the hosts of Pop Trigger. Check that out on youtube.com/PopTrigger. Bye-bye.